Please subscribe to my channel and do hit the bell icon. Hello to all dear students. In this video we are going to discuss about a very last topic of general anesthetic, that is pre-anesthetic medication. So pre-anesthetic medication refers to the use of drugs before anesthesia to make it more pleasant and safe. See, the name only says pre. Prior means something it is given prior and it is given before anesthesia medication. So pre-anesthetic are mainly given before anesthesia is been induced, so that to make it more pleasant and safer. The main aims of these pre-anesthetic medications are, first of all, to relieve anxiety and apprehension pre-operatively and to facilitate smooth induction. See, anxiety and apprehension means the fear or to worry. Now, when any person is about to go to operation theatre, fear and apprehension is very common. So, pre-anesthetics are used to reduce this anxiety. Next, amnesia for pre and post operative events. Amnesia refers to the loss of memory. Now, pre anesthetics will produce loss of memory. Now, when I'm saying loss of memory means whatever surgery experience the patient has, better to forget it. Here, loss of memory does not mean with the patient may lose his identity. He may forget his name and who he is. Here, loss of memory is only concerned with forgetting the whole surgery experience. Supplement analgesic action of anesthetics and potentiate them so that less anesthetic is needed. See, anesthesia means to produce CNS depression. When central nervous system is depressed, then all these senses are also depressed. See, pain is also a kind of sensory response, and when we give any analgesic, it will to some degree produce CNS depression. So that lesser concentration or lesser dose of anesthesia can be used to produce same effect. Next, decrease secretions and vagal stimulation that may caused by the anesthetics. See, now when any patient is about to undergo surgery, his sympathetic system will get activated, because sympathetic system will get activated whenever there is an emotion of fear or fright or flight, isn't it? And when sympathetic system get activated, there will be a reflex vagal stimulation. Vagal stimulation means now the parasympathetic system will also get activated. And you know what will happen to the secretions upon parasympathetic activation? Yes, there will be increased salivation, even increased bronchial secretion, and all the glandular secretions will be increased, which may lead to pneumonia like condition. Plus, if you remember the actions of parasympathetic stimulation upon heart, it produces bradycardia and hypotension. So we can use any anticholinergic drugs as a pre-anesthetic medication. Next, antiemetic effect extending to the post-operative period. Antiemetics are required to prevent post-operative vomitings. And lastly, the last aim is decrease acidity and volume of gastric juice so that it is less damaging if aspirated. So the patients undergoing prolonged operations, cesarean sections and obese patients are at increased risk of gastric regurgitation and aspiration pneumonia. So better to reduce the gastric acid. So these all are the 6 aims for which we are using pre-anesthetic medication. So one by one we shall check out what kind of drugs or what class of drugs can be used for pre-anesthetic medication. The very first class is sedative anti-anxiety drugs. So the name only says these drugs will reduce the anxiety. They counteract CNS toxicity of local anesthetics and are being used along with pethidine or fentanyl for a variety of minor surgical and endoscopic procedures. They counteract CNS toxicity of local anesthetics and are being used along with pethidine or fentanyl for a variety of minor surgical and endoscopic procedures. Midazolam is a good amnesic with potent and shorter lasting action. It is also better suited for intravenous injection due to water solubility. So midazolam, apart from reducing anxiety, as you can see, it is also producing amnesia. Promethazine at a dose of 50 mg intramuscularly is an antihistaminic with sedative, antiemetic and anticholinergic properties. It causes little respiratory depression. Okay, so promethazine is an antihistaminic. Antihistaminic means you can say it can reduce gastric acid secretions. They are antiemetic, plus they have got anticholinergic property also. So all these things, promethazine, apart from producing sedative and anti-anxiety action, it have got 3 more actions. Next, another class of drug is opioids. Morphine 10 mg or pethidine 50 to 100 mg intramuscularly allay anxiety and apprehension of the operation, produce pre and post operative analgesia. Okay, even analgesia is produced, smoothen induction, reduce the dose of anesthetic required and supplement poor analgesics such as thiopentone and halothane or weak anesthetics. Post operative restlessness is also reduced. Next, another class of drug is anticholinergics. So anticholinergics, the name only says it produces anticholinergic action, that means they inhibits the vagal stimulation. Atropine or hyoscine 0.6 mg or 10 to 20 microgram per kg intramuscularly or intravenously, or glycopyrrolate have been used primarily to reduce salivary and bronchial secretions. This need is infrequent now due to use of non-irritant anesthetics. However, they must be used beforehand when ether is being used. Okay, so nowadays non-irritant anesthetics are being used. Mostly inhalational kind of anesthetics are being producing such kind of problem in the respiratory tract. So before, atropine or hyoscine or any other kind of anticholinergics were being used, but nowadays non-irritant anesthetics are been available, so anticholinergics are not required as such. But anyways, when ether are being used, ether is producing more of bronchial irritation, because of which increased bronchial secretions are being produced. So in that case, whenever you are using ether, at that time better to use anticholinergics. The main aim of their use, there means anticholinergic use now, is to prevent vagal bradycardia and hypotension, which occurs reflexly due to certain surgical procedures, and prophylaxis of laryngospasm, which is precipitated by respiratory secretions. Hyoscine, in addition, produces amnesia. Okay, even amnesia has been produced by hyoscine and even antiemetic effect, but tends to delay recovery. Some patients get disoriented. Emergence delirium is more common. Emergence delirium means it is a kind of abnormal mental state when it develops as a result of anesthesia administered during the transition from unconscious to complete wakefulness. Moreover, antibradycardic effect of hyoscine is less marked. Therefore, it is infrequently selected for use during anesthesia. Another anticholinergic is glycopyrrolate, which is twice as potent and longer acting quaternary antimuscarinic, which does not produce central effects. Okay, so it is a plus point, because atropine will produce CNS toxicity, central effect, but glycopyrrolate will not produce any central effect. Next, anti-secretory action is more marked than atropine. That means it is better anti-secretory agent as compared to atropine. Bronchial secretion is being reduced more potently or more effectively by glycopyrrolate as compared to atropine. So, anti-secretory action is more marked than atropine, while tachycardia is less marked, especially after intramuscular injection. It acts rapidly when given IV and is preferred antimuscarinic in anesthetic practice. Okay, so here you can see a comparison is done between glycopyrrolate and atropine. When we talk about CNS toxicity, glycopyrrolate will produce less CNS toxicity as compared to atropine. When we talk about anti-secretory effect, glycopyrrolate will produce more intense anti-secretory action as compared to atropine. And lastly, production of tachycardia means inhibition of bradycardia of your heart. Glycopyrrolate is lesser tachycardia producing drug as compared to atropine. Our next drug is neuroleptics. See, neuroleptics are a kind of antipsychotic drug mainly used to calm down the patient, or you can say they are mainly used to decrease anxiety. Chlorpromazine, triflupromazine or haloperidol IM, that is intramuscularly, are infrequently used in pre-medication. They allay anxiety, smoothen induction and have antiemetic action. However, they potentiate respiratory depression and hypotension caused by the anesthetics and delay recovery. Involuntary movements and muscle dystonias can occur, especially in children. Next class of drug is the H2 blocker or proton pump inhibitors. So the name only says they are the drugs that are gastric acid reducers. Ranitidine or famotidine or omeprazole or pantoprazole given night before in the morning benefit by raising pH of gastric juice and may also reduce its volume and thus chances of regurgitation. The chances of reflux and damage to lungs on aspiration is minimal if volume of gastric juice is less than 25 ml and pH is more than 3.5. Prevention of stress ulcers is another advantage. They are now routinely used before prolonged surgery. Okay, so this is about H2 blockers or proton pump inhibitors. Our next class of drug is antiemetics. The name only says they will reduce the vomiting. Metoclopramide 10 to 20 mg intramuscularly preoperatively is effective in reducing post-operative vomiting by enhancing gastric emptying and tone of LES, that is lower esophageal sphincter. It reduces the chance of reflux and its aspiration. Extrapyramidal effects and motor restlessness can occur. Combined use of metoclopramide and H2 blocker is more effective. Domperidone is nearly as effective and does not produce extrapyramidal side effects. Lastly, ondansetron at a dose of 4 to 8 mg intravenously, the selective 5-HT3 blocker has been found highly effective in reducing the incidence of post-anesthetic nausea and vomiting. It is practically devoid of side effects and has become the antiemetic of choice in anesthetic practice. So this was all about antiemetics used as pre-anesthetic medication, and these were all the drugs that can used as pre-anesthetic medication. I hope you people found this video helpful. Thank you for watching.